idea. So there is a commitment to one another. And that commitment is built on trust. You and I have come to a place where we can rely that the other is going to step up and step in and be in partnership during these conversations.
I'll promise no one-word responses.
I would not expect anything other
than multiple words.
Exactly. So to start us off, and I have to put my glasses on first, I wanted to set up this conversation first by checking in with Charles Fillmore, conscious commitment. And in the revealing word to conscious, he writes of the conscious mind, the mind that makes one know of one's mental operations and states of consciousness. That phase of mind in which one is actively aware of one's thoughts. The mind through which man establishes his identity. So conscious, the ability that we can know what we're saying, doing, feeling. He does not have the word commitment in here. Whoop. So then I had to go to Google and I had to look up synonyms for commitment, and he doesn't have dedication, he doesn't have devotion in here. He didn't have any of those synonymous words with commitment. So the closest thing I could get to is free will. Man's inherent... Uh-oh.
Sometimes things happen, but I'm committed.
Go with the flow.
We are flexible. We are flexible. There we go. So the closest thing that Charles had to commitment was free will. Man's inherent freedom to act as he determines. There can be no perfect expression without perfect freedom of will. If man determines to act in accord with divine law, he builds harmony, health, happiness, and eternal life, which is heaven. And he can make these choices from a state of consciousness, knowing what he's doing, which is what commitment is. Commitment is that act where we sign our name to the dotted line and say we're going to do something. I think it's the very container that allows spirit to know how to show up in our lives. But I also think there's something very scary about commitment. So my first question to you, Reverend Stacey, is would you agree to that statement of that there's something scary about commitment?
Well, there certainly can be. There you go. There certainly can be, and I'll just remind everybody, I don't go back in unity as far as Charles Fillmore. I'm not that old, but I've been around unity communities for 40 years. And in that time, I've noticed people struggle with commitment, struggle with the word obey in the marriage ceremony. Whoa. Any of these shoulds or ought to, anything that implies, and the Fillmores would often say when you rebel against a word or a thought or an idea, it's because something deep in your soul says, ooh, this is not quite right. And what I mean by that, some of us feel that these certain words like commitment is about this church, our board of directors, me, somebody taking away your freedom and saying you have to commit to this. So the scary part is your soul rejecting the idea that you're not free. Somebody else is going to decide for you. And that's not at all what Unity was talking about, certainly not what Charles Fillmore was talking about, because he always claimed people must come to unity out of their own choice. They must come to any idea, anything they want to be involved with, like this church or anything, must be their free choice. If it isn't, they're never going to be committed to that idea, the organization, or anything, because our souls yearn for freedom. But there's a lot that goes along with such freedom.
Well, and what I would say to that, what goes along with it, and I think for me anyway, what the scary part of it is, I've always told my kids this: the degree of freedom that you want to experience always comes to the corresponding degree of responsibility you are willing to take. You don't get freedom without taking responsibility. And when we get an opportunity, when we get presented with an opportunity that requires commitment, I remember when Yvette Trotman, who is not here, and Reverend Lyles approached me and said, we think you'd be a good board member. We want you to be on the board. And I thought, what? They don't know anything about me. Like, what? Why would they think that? And that was just like deer in the headlights. And I went home that night, and I remember thinking, why not me? And it took me on a journey that I could not have possibly imagined for myself, being on the board of this church and stepping into something that I had not thought myself capable of. So it was stepping into that container. Spirit had provided a container that was delivered through two people who saw something in me. I don't know. Maybe they just needed a warm body to fill up a seat. Could have been. Yeah. But by saying yes, not knowing what the outcome is going to be, not knowing what you're getting yourself into, not knowing what you're saying no to as you say yes to something. And I don't know about other people, but I think nowadays we have so many opportunities, so many different ways to spend our time. Does anybody here feel like their time is always being pulled at? There's always so many things to choose from. And then of course we have that thing called FOMO, that if we commit to something, if we say we're going to show up and do this, we might miss out on something else. And I don't know about you guys, but what happens to me sometimes, that fear of missing out, so I don't commit to anything, now I'm sitting at home alone doing nothing. Because I couldn't make the choice, I couldn't make the decision, or I wasn't willing to step into the decision and my choice and own it. Thoughts?
Thoughts. There's a commercial on TV these days, and I love seeing it because it has such great kids. It's one of the commercials for the Shriners hospitals. And all these kids are leading you on. You know what the secret is? The most important word? And eventually they reveal it. Yes! It's a word that changes lives, even your own, when you say yes. And so maybe part of our getting more comfortable with the idea of conscious commitment or being dedicated to something, maybe it feels a little easier if it's as simple as yes. I see good in this community. I see good in this particular project. I know I'm going to see good in that barbecue lunch after church. So I'm going to say yes to it. I'm going to make myself a part of it. And that's actually being committed to it. But don't use that word. Use yes, or a word that feels comfortable. And I brought up obey from the marriage ceremony. And a lot of people want to take it out. But if you really look at the root of that word, you know what it is? It means to make yourself in alignment with another. Ooh. Oh, now I can go with that. So these words, which represent ideas, of course, probably one of the oldest stories I know of Charles Fillmore back about 1900 was the fact that he would tell the gatherings that came. And it was a diverse group of souls, because in those days, most people were attending the other church they were familiar with and coming to unity as a special supplement or a happening. And Charles said, use the ideas, the words, that you hear here at Unity and prove them in your own life, that they're helpful, that they empower you, that they give you hope, that they inspire you. And if they don't, Charles said, drop them. Go do something else. There was that freedom. We offer an opportunity, and right now we've got a lot of opportunities going on here at the church. It's an opportunity for you to connect with. It's not an obligation or a have to or a heavy commitment in that sense. But we do ask you to take it seriously, to give it life, to give it your attention, your power.
So this morning I was out walking God.
Dog.
Yes. I was out walking God, and that's really my time to think. And I was thinking about this conversation that we were going to have. And one of the questions that arose for me when I was thinking about this conversation was, it's an opportunity to know who we are. Do you know who you are? Do you know what you're capable of? So whenever we say yes to something, it's an opportunity to know ourselves at a deeper level without the need to know the outcome. It is the biggest act of faith to say yes to something and be okay with not knowing the outcome. Because in that moment, you're exercising a committed relationship to something greater than just your little ego self or my ego self. Because it's so easy for me to think, well, this is Kelli showing up in the world, and this is how Kelli does life, and this is how Kelli goes to the grocery store or does a class or offers a service or whatever. But when you take a step back and you allow for that relationship to come in and just ask the question, is this just me? Or who am I? Who am I? And can I see myself as an expression of God? And knowing that this is a relationship that I choose to obey, align myself, and then I need not fear anything.
One of my favorite examples or stories in the Gospels was when Jesus told his disciples, as he was sending them out into the world to do work, to offer hope, to heal others, he probably saw some of that nervousness in their eyes. And he said, don't be afraid about what you will say, what you will do. In your commitment to what was called in the first century the way, this new positive path forward that Jesus spoke of, recognizing the kingdom of God, all possibility right here, right at hand, as it was said. He said, Spirit will provide whatever you need. And sometimes that's someone to work with you. Sometimes it's someone to coach you. This will come if you're determined, committed, and willing to say yes. Then whatever you need to go forward with that will be available, will be given to you. That was a promise that Jesus said the universe, God, life, will not drop you. When you're committed to take a step forward, you will be supported.
Which is really an exciting conversation because the past, I don't know, year and a half, maybe even longer, there have been some really committed conversations happening in what direction this church is going to take. And we recently had a board training with Reverend Greg Coles, who gave the Sunday message. My gosh, it seems like eons ago, and it was just
April 7th.
It was literally just 4 months or a month ago, 4 weeks ago. And he said, so many churches are closing their doors, and I came into your space, and you guys are doubling down. You installed new carpeting. You finished painting. You're going all in. And yes, thank you. He was very, very excited about that. And if we look at that and say, okay, the external always matches the internal. So the fact that we are doubling down on the appearance of our building is saying a lot about the inner work that is being done. And we had an opportunity during that weekend to really talk about commitment. And we're going to be presenting one of the things that we talked about. But I want to point out that commitment, it seems like these big, lofty things that we have to say yes to. I'm talking about having conversations with people and saying, yeah, I know the church is offering a whole lot, but it's really hard for me to keep up with events because I just don't read the email. I don't read the weekly newsletter. Okay.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. You want to know what's happening in the church? Read the weekly newsletter. You don't like the weekly newsletter? Go to the website. You don't want to go to the website? Call the office. Have a conversation with somebody about it. This is the minutia level of commitment that each and every one of us are asked. We're given an opportunity. That's all it is. It's an opportunity. What are you going to say yes to? What are you going to say no to? So Reverend Coles introduced us to an idea that as long as I've been going here, I've never seen this before. And I'll have to check with Lindy if she'd ever seen it, but I don't think she'd ever seen it. But he introduced the idea of a membership covenant. Oh my God.
On paper?
Oh my God, you're going to expect something? You're going to ask me to do something as a member?
You're scaring me.
But as I was reading through these, so not only did he introduce us to the idea of a membership covenant, but he also introduced the idea of a board member, a board covenant. Things for us to discuss as a community and say, what do you believe? And if you believe that, are you willing to do something about it? Are you willing to practice it not only here on Sunday mornings, but are you willing to actually make it a part of your life? Not because we say so, but because you will discover something about yourself that you don't know yet when you put these things to practice. So I am very excited about this membership covenant.
I noticed.
I'll let you take it from there.
Well, when we first took up the idea of this idea of conscious commitment, it was actually because we were having a conversation of the ongoing struggle in the office to prepare events here. Everything as little as our luncheon after church, potlucks, going out in the community to do charitable work and actually have fun. Talk to Carol about it. We have a good time. But all these different things, and I ask and I ask, and I irritate and I irritate everyone, but it can be so challenging to get everyone to sign a list. And I'm not doing that because I'm trying to take your freedom away. I'm trying to see who's willing to put their attention and focus on a certain activity, a New Year's Eve party, a work team, working in our gardens to make things beautiful out here, and pulling the attention together so that we can plan and be prepared for something. But it's sometimes a struggle to make that commitment. But that commitment is setting us up for success. It's setting us up to all succeed individually and as a community. Now, a little more esoteric side of that, of our conversation, the longest running class we've had since I've been here 7 years has been our Rudolf Steiner study group. And we meet twice a month. But they have an understanding of this concept that when we commit, when we show up, maybe there are times when we're a little bit tired and we'd rather stay home and watch TV or something, but we show up for the benefit of the others in the group. We do our part and make that commitment. And Rudolf Steiner called that creating a vessel. If you can imagine the chalice I use in our communion services. That vessel is created by our willingness to come together and say, yes, and I will show up. And then the thought is that vessel we create by our unity, the Spirit of life can pour power, substance, insight into that chalice, and things happen here. Now, you've seen it in one particular way, and that's when we've taken on substantial projects that are easy to see, like the carpet, like paying off the mortgage at the end of last year. It's real easy to see what that goal is. And wow, do you show up? You love those projects. Kelli and I talked about paying off the mortgage at the end of last year, and ooh, that's a big jump. Maybe we could just pay 1 month extra. By December 31st, all the money had come in. The mortgage was paid. Mm-hmm. It was your free will gift, but the power in it is when we come together and form this vessel that God can work through and provide. I remember when we made a commitment to replace all 21 of these windows, not the colored glass that you see, but the actual window behind that. With thermal pane windows, it stopped all the leaking we had going on in the sanctuary. When I came, there were walls during rainstorms. The water would run down the walls and so forth. So we decided, no, this is a goal. We're going to commit ourselves to this. Somehow it will happen. And then someone remembered us in their estate. And when we didn't even know it, there was a check in the mail, more than enough to pay for all of this. But I don't think it would have happened had we not made the commitment, this is something we need to do. And if you think I'm talking just about physical things, this building, this is all what the Fillmores called an out-picturing of our inner work and our inner commitment, as Kelli said a few moments ago. This building is something we can see and touch, we can come to every week. And it tells us about the commitment of those members who went before us. And they said, we're going to have a unity ministry on the south side of the city in Bloomington. Judy even wrote the song about it when the building was finished. We did it, was her song. So this is not just about things and buildings. It's about examples of what we're willing to commit ourselves, what we believe in. And that commitment is a free act of love. You know, that's why Charles Fillmore called our donation time when we collect the offerings, and he called it a love offering. And some people think, oh, that sounds like little hearts and teddy bears. It's so cute. No, what he meant by that term was, this is an offering this ministry has brought together in love, which means given in freedom. Because we choose. Now.
What comes to mind with this membership covenant that we'll get into is it's an opportunity that we say we're going to practice these things here. But really, it's a blueprint for how we live our lives, if we want it to be. So the membership covenant, first point, and this is a working document, and we are not saying everybody has to sign this today before you leave here. This is something, this is a reflection exercise to take this and reflect upon it and feel into it, what it means.
And to get clarity about who we are and what we're about. It's on the screen now.
Oh.
I'm going to read.
I understand, and I am aligned with the basic teaching of unity. I understand these principles are based on the life and teachings of Jesus, and that we honor the universal truth of all spiritual paths. Now, number 2's up there too.
Uh-huh.
Yep. I will make my spiritual unfoldment and relationship with God a priority in my life.
A what?
Oh, a priority.
Ooh.
What a great roadmap that is.
Mm-hmm. And a priority is an opportunity, and that means you're free to choose it or walk away from it. Let's go to 3, Tyler. I will do my part to support the mission of Unity South, to be embracing, loving, and empowering, and to awaken humankind to its spiritual potential by inspiring, educating, serving, and creating community as exemplified by Jesus Christ. That encouragement that he gave his followers, we're to give one another. You know, each week I ask you to look around the room, catch someone's eye, and say, I behold the Christ in you. I see the good, the power, the spark of God in you. Does that happen when you go to London Byerly's? Or to Costco? Or to a sports game? This is a special place where we revere the good, the possibility in one another. Number 4, this naturally follows, I will support my fellow members and congregants in developing a loving and inclusive community. I will extend myself with loving warmth to newcomers in our congregation and those I do not yet know.
Number 5.
Mm-hmm.
I will participate in Unity South's educational offerings to enhance my spiritual development. I will include Unity South in my daily prayer practice. And I
Okay.
love that, number 6. I will include Unity South in my daily prayer practice to see the opportunities, to see the possibility, to see resources availing themselves, to not get caught up in the, oh my gosh, and we don't have this and we don't have that, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, how are we going to make that happen? But to actually practice your unity principles and teachings as they apply to this community and its growth, not in number of people, but growth, inner growth of the community at large, to actually see manifestation happen here.
When our denominational president and CEO, Reverend Shad Groverland, was here recently to work with the board a whole weekend, he walked into the door of the rotunda in our front door and just went, wow, wow, as a newcomer. The excitement of that space, you walk through the door and it just swells up to 25 feet. All of a sudden, this huge expansion. Again, that's an outpicturing of what we want to continue to create and to build upon for people. When they come into this ministry, they have this feeling of, wow. They feel expanded. They feel appreciated. They feel welcomed, and that we believe in them. That's like that entry space where the physical space just soars as you walk in. Let's see what 7 is. Oh, thanks. Give me the heavy stuff. Okay.
I'll help you lift this one.
Okay. I will include Unity South in my financial giving, offering consistent financial support extended joyfully and lovingly. There's that love offering
Oh,
again.
I get to give you money.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what joyfully and lovingly
Money makes
means.
the church go round.
Yeah.
So, number 8, I will serve as a volunteer at least periodically, thereby learning the value of sacred service. You know, often people come to a unity ministry, even like this one, and they want a sense of belonging. They want a sense of connection. Friends, volunteering, whether it's here or elsewhere, is putting yourself into a situation and making a difference. That really connects you. Our teams that go out into the city and do work together, we have a great time. It's not only fun to do, but we empower one another. And so volunteerism is not about me getting each one of you in here once a week to empty the trash cans. It's about bringing us together as a team to see what we can do to make this a better world right here in our little ministry in Bloomington, Minnesota. So we can move on. Number 9.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
parking lot conversations. I will speak with constructive purpose about our ministry and my fellow congregants. If I experience upset, I will seek guidance from Spirit first, and then speak directly with the person involved to seek mutual understanding and resolution. I will seek spiritual counseling as needed for resolution and/or reconciliation. I haven't always done this. I haven't always practiced this. I've had less than flattering conversations about people in the parking lot. I've held judgments, frustrations, anger about not getting my way, what I think is right. This is a blueprint for living. And it's the playground that we are asking people to step up to so that we can practice these things in other areas as well. We talk about responsibility. Wow. I read that one and I was like, wow. That's big. That's huge. That's expecting every single person to take themselves out of the sandbox and to act as an adult with agency and authority and say, at least here, I will not partake in this. I will not partake in gossip. I will not partake in bad-mouthing someone. I will not partake in tearing down ideas and thinking something is wrong or just not right. A blueprint for actually putting our practical spiritual principles into play so that we can show up and bear the fruit of that work.
And it comes down to that simple formula again. Where am I going to gift? That is, give my attention. And if I'm going to focus my attention on criticism of anybody, or gossiping, or condemning the board or any project here, just be honest with yourself and say, wow, that's where I'm putting my power. That's where I am choosing to deflate something. And then you might say, ooh, I'd rather be a lifter, one who lifts something up. And we don't always get our way. The minister doesn't always get his way. But just remember, your attention is a gift. Where are you going to put it?
At the leadership training that Greg Coles did, Saturday morning got off to a rocky start. We had some very uncomfortable conversations. For anybody who was a conflict avoidant, they were extremely uncomfortable. It was really interesting, though, because everybody was allowed to be heard. And it was okay to not agree. It was okay to voice whatever opinion needed to be shared. It wasn't about coming to a place where we all necessarily agreed, but by going through that very, very, very uncomfortable, difficult conversation and seeing where it led us to the end of the day, reconciliation and resolution was the natural outcome of it. And there were no bad feelings being harbored. Everyone was heard, so there was no need to go out in the parking lot and, oh my God, there was none of that because everybody had a chance to say what they needed to say. It was a really, I'm even going to say delightful. It didn't start off being delightful, but the end result was really refreshing. It was really a great, it was a really, really great, meaningful, impactful day.
And it inspired something new around here. We're going to start in June. Quarterly town hall meetings, only 20 minutes is our goal, right after the Sunday service, 4 times a year. Mm-hmm. And an opportunity for people to be heard, for people to catch up on what's going on, and what the possibilities are that they may join into.
I'm going to take 10?
Oh, it's 10, okay. 10, I recognize that my presence and participation at services and activities is a contribution and gift that enhances the experience for all. This isn't about a little lady I met in Oklahoma at a Unity Center. And when a visitor was sitting in her chair, before the service, she demanded that they move.
It's a great way to retain newcomers.
I know. And the minister said, "Don't you want to see new people coming to our church? We have to welcome." She said, "Literally, I don't care if anyone else ever comes into this church. That is my chair."
Okay.
Well, it sounds kind of funny, but it's kind of a backdoor way of getting into this message. That try to remind yourself, I know many of you are very conscious of this, but whenever you come into the front doors of this church, say a little prayer. Get yourself centered, that you're not just here for your own entertainment or inspiration or a hug of the week. I'm single, so this is where I get my hugs. So remind yourself, you're here as a gift and a blessing to everybody else that shows up. You're adding something to this gathering. You're not just sitting there inert. You're bringing love and power into this community and blessing lots of people. You know, when we do the annual Burning Bowl after New Year's approximately, I like to remind you that as we cast that which we're releasing from our life into that bowl of fire and it consumes, remember the people in line before you, their release is building up the flames to be available for you to surrender and to let go. So again, we're all here for one another, not just for ourselves. Well, we better get on to number 11.
Yeah, this kind of wraps everything up. Together with my fellow members and congregants, that's all of us, I am co-creating with God the ongoing dynamic life of Unity South. I recognize that together we help to keep its doors open and expand its programs and services, thereby blessing and serving countless others like myself. Through membership in Unity South, I honor the Spirit in me and the Spirit at work through Unity South. And I remember a talk that you gave very recently. Membership has its benefits. And this covenant is really asking people to reflect upon what this church home means to you and how that meaning can be expressed through you. Do you have any final thoughts before I move into a greater expression?
No, because I'm going to have final thoughts in our time of reflection and silence.
So we had a very generous expression, an idea that was presented to us just a few days ago. It was listed in the weekly newsletter, if you read that. But we had someone approach us and say, I would like to do a matching grant in practice of elevating the financial consciousness, the prosperity consciousness of our congregation. So I would like to offer a $1,000 match for today's offering. Now, when I said that, $1,000 match for today's offer, up to $1,000 match for today's offering, did anybody's mind immediately go to, well, I could put in next week's offering today and get double my money? So this isn't about playing games about shifting money. This is about somebody stepping up and saying, I'm willing to stretch myself in a really, really vulnerable way, and I'm going to ask the congregation to step up as well in an invitation of learning something about their own giving. And it is a wonderful example of this idea of conscious commitment. And it comes from your very own board president, Mr. Adam Schneider. So Adam, yeah, thank you. So today's offering will be matched up to $1,000. And I say that's conscious commitment. It doesn't have to be $1,000 every week. But how can you take in this information? How will you apply it? How will you give meaning to it within our church community and within our church family?
Thank you. Well, let's take a few moments. Many ideas have bubbled through our minds, feelings of warmth and excitement, and perhaps challenge have come up. So I invite you to close your eyes for a few moments. Almighty Spirit, you brought me into this world. You brought me through my birth to be a valuable part of the global human family, more intimately a part of this unity ministry. But you're not done with us yet. You are leading us to be artists, creators, transformers of our own lives, of Unity South, our communities, our nation, our world. You are empowering us for change. But the secret is it's up to us. Because you made us free people. People that make their choices. Help me to understand the power of my choice. Help me to be clear and conscious, aware, mindful of how I spend my energy, where I gift my attention, where I bless with my financial support. I swell up as if with pride to realize I am a creative individual because I am God's creation. There are so many good things I have done, will continue to do, and new avenues before me yet to discover. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. That ancient word that means celebrate God, the presence and power in you, in us. What we can be, what we can do. The wonders will never cease as we consciously commit to life. As we are willing to say, yes, yes. I invite you to join me in ending this reflection with that powerful three-letter word. Together, yes. And so it is.